The idea was the diversity of modern photography. There is so much going on over the last years, so I was looking for things like the glass plates from the Victorian era and modern photography using digital cameras. Then I've got people like Mandy and then Susan Durgis and Marianthi, who are not even using a camera-less photography. And then we've got some landscape work, which is much more accessible to some people. So I think it's succeeded in being very diverse.
One of the things that I really do enjoy immensely is the process of photography. It's much more than the camera. It's actually about engaging with the landscape and engaging with nature. Just recently I've been trying to sort of stretch myself and start responding to things that I might not normally have noticed. And it really involves looking at something that I hadn't really in the past looked at. There's one photograph in this exhibition which is called South of Granada, and it gives me an enormous joy to think that that cloud just positioned itself in that particular place, and the fence slightly open, inviting the viewer to walk in and walk up to the tree.
I started to experience a growing feeling that the camera lens, which I'd always felt so comfortable behind, was actually becoming a barrier between me and this landscape that I felt such an affinity with. So this need to get more hands-on, to work more experimentally, to collaborate immersively with the landscape in some way, led me towards cameraless photographic techniques. I work out at the tidal edges, letting seawater, sand and sediment wash over papers that have been painted with light-sensitive iron compounds. The prints often end up becoming more mixed media works, but with their origin firmly rooted in a photographic print process.
Mandy's work is beautiful to look at, and it's quite strange because the message she's bringing across is not beautiful. She's collected plastics in the sea. She's been out to places where there have been tsunamis and found pieces washed up on the beach from that tsunami thousands of miles away.
I was brought up with film, black and white film particularly, printing my own work. Then, of course, I went over to digital, but now I've actually gone back to some of the old processes, which I started about 10 years ago, including wet plate collodion, but also, as you'll see from the exhibition, some of the more modern processes like infrared digital. I use a camera which has been specially adapted to be more sensitive to infrared light. And these images which you see here are made using that camera. It really takes you away from reality because it's using part of the light spectrum which we can't see. The wet plate collodion process dates back to 1851. It works on glass and tin in a large format camera. What I then do is I take that and I scan the glass plates and I produce prints from that.
Susan Durgis is a very innovative photographer. The large picture she has in the exhibition is called Shoreline, and it's actually putting paper in the sea at night and letting the waves wash over it, and then taken back to a darkroom and processed, so known as a photogram.
On show in Responding to Light is work that made in the last couple of years, actually mainly during the lockdown period, of trees that are in my local woods. And the work reflects a kind of familiarity with woodland and with the conditions that are really best to bring out the form, texture, colour, mood, atmosphere of these places. The pictures on display are framed in yew, and they're made by my friend Ken Jackery, and they're very highly crafted, so they're works of art in their own right, and it's just been very exciting. You could perhaps argue that the frames, that they draw attention from the images, but since these pictures are about wood, about nature, then the frames themselves remind you what the substance of the image really is, and for me that works.